Great honour to be asked to write this essay for the book Cosgrovia. The epic Cosgraphic, the new poetry of Patrick Cosgrove. Muddy body poetry, carrying with it the heft of the human being that might be liquidy but not watery, or maybe organy, and that bouncing around the back of brain, from a childhood where maybe we grew up in a forest, where maybe those first few years of life that our parents didn't know set up a lot of what's to follow. Where is the goblin? It's in plastic now. What has been left behind on the street to become itself, Patrick finding it is what? Patrick placing it right together with steps and detailed plans in a photo or before people or in a room. The lost, funny devils of the memories, singular or collective, put into being by being seen by Patrick. Only Patrick can see them. Only he can find them once seen. Only he can assemble them and then step off right smart at the time for them to become his poems. What a thing to witness. Yourself as a duck, or a honey drizzle, or green lips. The inseparable entwining of Patrick Cosgrove's work and person has, over the last decade, given me an answer, more than almost anyone else, to the question of what I think is good poetry. Good poetry is not just the obvious absence of bad poetry, nor what is my own interests in others. It is profoundly and properly loosely that which poets do, which it seems only they can do, where they seem fully aligned with the previously nearly unimaginable, because they only imagined it, where they seem, and this is woolly, most themselves in the writing or performing of their understanding of poetry. Those in touch with their unknowability, most aligned with the instinct of decision. For poetry, in whatever its form, is just a small set of decisions accrued. We need to get into it, untrammeled, strip out everything in the way, all the expectation and ambition, and outside, use all we've seen and read as a mattress and not a plinth. How does Patrick do that so unimpeded? How does he tower in the immense authenticity? Annoying that that word has been stripped out by the inauthentic. But strange, wonderful, curious authenticity makes his work some of the most clearly original of any working poet in the contemporary British scene since the turn of the century. It's a big statement, but his action to making poetry by accident and in a real kind of humility brings with it an enormous suggestion towards a new understanding of poetry and a new way of making. He isn't good following someone. He's good because while what he does might have clear roots in certain traditions outside of poetry, he is a poet. Patrick's decisions then, a path that leads to a conceptualization of what poetry is again, and no less than that. All the more for the fact that that claim would not appeal to Patrick. Here is an ideal in him and his work, to be pure into reading and learning and collaborating and exhibit extending, and from hardcore philosophy to psychoanalysis to theory criticism to kids' books to discarded scraps of shit paper robbed from skips to other people's receipts, and then with all this erudition to just have it as context but not content. Never a shield or mountain molehill or characteristic, to end up where poetry is language referent but rarely has words. Wordless poetry, poetry built of things, poetry framed in the image, made of the things others write about. Readings of poetry that are about placing and moving and manipulating those things. But poetry, paradoxically, made all the more literary by the direct absence of language. Patrick's things are mucking around then. Rituals or artworks or sculptures or objects or collages or found photos or whatever. Not a concern for Patrick, it seems. Poems, though, they are fucking poems. I don't care what you say. I'm the one who tells everyone I know what poetry is. And I say all the time poetry is made of language as material for something other than direct description or communication, blah, blah, blah. Who says the photo-collage concrete poems of the Neugenders aren't poems? Blah, blah, blah. But Patrick's pieces are poems because they are, to me, not about the image that stands for the absent language, but about what language is. It is lines and shapes and things placed, found in the world. Because a poetry performance is about the acknowledgement of how language is heard and experienced in space and time. Patrick is operating at such a high level while embodying such remarkable decency, thoughtfulness, presence and kindness as a person. His poetics are him walking, listening, as much as they are the moment his biro touches paper. Cosgrovia, then, A Selected Poems, is one of the most important books published in the last few decades. I'll be teaching it to my students for years. It is a pathway to something new, so immensely full of complex detail that it will inevitably appear to glance as a singular thing of colour and confusion and chaos. The work being done here, drawn from years of labour, hundreds of hours of play and investigation, asks us so many questions that can inspire new roads into our own possibilities. It is something myself and many others have long sought, a singular place for people to discover the quality and breadth of Patrick's achievements. This is a book of great fun, but it is also a book of quiet integrity. It is too easy to say Cosgrovia is a place that is strange or disturbing or surreal or psychoanalytical, for it isn't really, depending on whether we are in touch with those parts of ourselves that exist below the surface, that are not even that deep in the unmapped mush of the brain and the bubbling flush of our bodies. It is a book that returns us not only to our creatureliness, but also our origins as a species, the daubs, that had to invent writing and painting. It returns us too to the urge towards ritual and spirit mystery, while with remarkable balance, it also speaks to our penchant for laughing first at ourselves and then the things we find in the world, which match any strangeness we can conjure. Thank you.